Hello everyone, and welcome to the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup and BMW M2 Multiclass, sponsored by SimQuips. I'm your host Roy Waller, and tonight we're at the Oulton Park circuit for round 6 of our series. And as the Porsche Cups get themselves out onto the circuit to start this qualifying session, we're taking the opportunity to take a look at our standings. The series so far, and leading the way still is Joe Wilson, who perhaps forgets that there is a chicane here at Oulton Park at the end of the straight, but will be the first driver to set a flying lap here. But either way, is first in the championship, joint first with Matthew Parry. And then we have Johan left just 10 points behind, 310 points. Bear in mind this has removed the worst results for each of these drivers from the standings, so still going to be plenty to play for. Well, obviously plenty to play for. They're joint on top. But then we have Jens Nielsen on 270, and behind them a little bit of a gap. So really top four, the main drivers in contention. And we'll turn our attention now to Joe Wilson as he takes us around this Oulton Park circuit. Down the long straight. Is it flat out through the kink? Not in the Porsche Cup cars. Slight lift of the throttle and in to the hairpin, using all the camber, getting the car turned in. Heavy on the throttle, a little bit wiggly on the rear end, but managing to hold decent control of it. Now using a lot of curb through the chicane. As we come down towards the next chicane, where hopefully Joe Wilson will find his braking point this time. He does, chucks it in, takes a lot of the apex curb at the first apex, and tyre barriers in the middle of the track there. Someone already punted that into the racing line. Double right-hander. Hooks up both apexes well. Uses full extent of the track there. Can use a little bit of that grasscrete on the outside into the tricky real final corner. There is a little kink afterwards, but there will be a lap for Joe Wilson as we see him cross the line with a 1:36.150, setting the initial pace of this session. Next across the line will be Sam McCarthy, number 5 car, with a 1:37.377, some 1.2 seconds off of the pace set by Joe Wilson. It's a solid opening lap from Wilson as John Sawyer crosses the line and puts his car into P3 provisionally with a 1:37.6. And we've got a little bit of a gap back to Marek Schittel. 1:38.5. And close behind is Navarro and Klinger, with Borovic, Briznik and Cano all having set laps. Who else is out there on track? Matthew Parry, driver who's joint top in the Porsche Cup class. Just coming around the final kink now to cross the line. And it's P9 currently for Parry, 1:40.3. As Balazs Fahit wearing that unicorn livery again. Currently on a 1:39.277 as Joe Wilson smashes his previous time. 1:35.690 now, setting the benchmark for this session as he gets the rear of the car out, coming down through cascades. And Joe Wilson really attacking the circuit here. No one able to get close to him. John Sawyer moving up to P2 with a 1:36.9, and Konjarovic trying to find some space, currently caught up behind Marek Schittel, getting his way through. I'm not sure if being let past there. So, yep, as they come down towards Shallow Oil Corner. We now have Jens Nielsen of Old Folk Motors into P2, still over a second off of the pace set by Wilson. Really solid effort there by our championship leader. And with Matthew Parry currently down in P14 and not improving at the moment. Has just started onto a new flying lap, so we'll keep an eye on Parry. But running wide of the apex there up through Cascades. Not having the pace around this circuit, it seems, for Matthew Parry. As Sam McCarthy and John Sawyer have managed to break into that 1 minute gap behind Joe Wilson. Sam McCarthy now on a 1:36.5. Showing some good pace in this session. Lots of drivers out there seeming to be improving their time. Next across the line will be Jens Nielsen, who's finding a massive improvement on this lap. Crossing the line just 3.5 tenths behind Joe Wilson. 1:36.0. We'll see what Balazs Fahir can do. Might also be able to get themselves within that 1 minute of Joe Wilson. As they come down now to the final true corner of this circuit. And on the power for Fahir. And crossing the line. 1:36.820, so still more than a second behind Wilson. As we come now on to the final few laps for these drivers out there. Not much time left to improve. As John Sawyer currently sitting on a 1:36.6. Slightly sloppy exit to the final corner. This is going to be close to catching the cars ahead. Nope. Stays P6 as Matthew Parry finally pulls a lap together. Gets himself within 0.09 of a second of our provisional pole sitter and keeps his championship fight alive. Joe Wilson going even quicker now on this final lap. Whoa, really taking it to the ragged edge and beyond. Joe Wilson running wide of track limits, may have just about enough time to get around and start another flying lap if he's got the fuel on board to do so, but a little bit sloppy out there, has maybe extracted all the pace he can from that car. As Matthew Parry pushes on. As we'll keep with Parry for the while. This is going to be the last attempt at a flying lap for this driver. Really, really close, both Joe Wilson and Matthew Parry on time. As Joe Wilson does get around in time to start another flying lap. And has got himself clear of the BMWs, who now proceed out onto the circuit. We'll keep ourselves with Matthew Parry for the time being, who is on a very strong lap at the moment. One final sector of the circuit to go. And currently 2.5 tenths up on his previous best. Only 1/10 down on our provisional pole sitter. Using every millimetre of the track. He's run slightly wide of the apex at the final corner, but this is going to be a strong final lap from Parry as he comes to cross the line and does for now take provisional pole position away from this man right here, Joe Wilson, who's still got a final few corners to go on his own final lap. Oh, and a little bit there, a bit of a squirm on the exit. And this is going to have to be a very strong final corner from Joe Wilson if he wants to try and take his position at the top of the grid away. Don't think he's going to be able to as he comes across the line, missing out on pole position with a great final lap there by Matthew Parry at 1:35.532. He will be starting this race on pole position. And so as we turn our attention over to BMW M2s, and we can take a look at the TCX standings. Currently, this driver we're on board with now, Oscar Yaram, leading the way with 330 points, the maximum available at this stage in the competition, with Andre Thierry just 10 points behind. Then got a substantial gap back to Anthony Victor Chappelle on 269. He's in a close battle with Marco Lorenzon, with Callum Scotland, Magnus Mortensen, Lennon Bromfield very close behind. It's a competitive grid in both our classes. As we return attention back, the lap being set by Oscar Yaram as he comes into the final sector of his introductory lap. Building the pressures, building the temperature in those tyres. These BMW M2s aren't ready right out of the gate. It takes a while for them to build up, get those tyres working underneath them. You can really hear the tyres squealing as they make their way through this first flying lap. There's just one corner to go for Yaram before we see time on the board. It is a 1:46.985, setting the pace at the start of the qualifying session for the BMW M2s. And then just close behind we have got Callum Scotland at a 1:47.1, Andre Thierry on a 1:47.3, Magnus Mortensen with a 1:48.6, with yet another evolution to the Norwegian driver's livery. I suspect we will see a number of those liveries out on circuit as we usually do. Max Davies currently down in P22 overall, 1:49.2. Marco Lorenzon, driver who is in that second pack of drivers on the championship standings. He's sitting on a 1:49.6, but improving on this lap. As Lennon Bromfield jumps it up into P21. Just less than a second off of Oscar Yaram, our current pace setter in the M2s. And Alex Parry still running the Shrek livery. Currently sitting on a 1:50.4. And I told you we'd see more of them. Benjamin Odin Vedvik, 1:52.5, some 6 seconds off the pace at the moment. finding some time on this lap. Our sorry, not engineering manager. Our commentator manager here at pitskill.io currently improving up to a 151.0. Still plenty of pace to find out there as someone goes very sideways behind Edvik. What happened there for Tim Snells? It's on the brakes, chucks the car in, and just a little bit too much of the curbing, and that is some considerable damage there on the front. That dimmer. As we check in with Lennon Bromfield again, finding plenty of pace on this lap, is going to improve his time and his position as he comes across the line. Actually, nope, just his time, not his position. Gets close to Thierry, but just 0.09 of a second off. So throughout our order, we're seeing a few improvements coming in now. Max Davies currently just over 2 seconds off at the pace of Yaram, finding plenty of time on this lap. A distant tow from the car of Perry ahead. And perhaps speaking too soon as Max Davies gets himself out onto the grass and will not be improving on this lap. As seeming like everyone settling in to their pace at the moment. Oscar Yaram returning to the pits. Will potentially have one more attempt at a flying lap. He wants to get out there. But Callum Scotland looking to try and improve and jump ahead of Oscar Yaram, currently sitting just 3/10 of a second behind Yaram. Has got the car of Davies ahead, so will potentially need to clear him, as we're judging on the pace difference between these two drivers, so hopefully they play nicely together on circuit. As Davies ahead, actually, oh sorry, that was not Davies ahead, that was someone else. As Max Davies is actually further back in the circuit, currently up behind Alex Perry and improving considerably on his previous best. As he chucks it through the chicane. And we come into towards the final minute of this qualifying session with Oscar Yaram currently sitting to pace in the BMW M2s, Callum Scotland not far behind, and Andre Thierry closing in as well, as both Scotland and Thierry emerge onto their final flying laps. Callum Scotland aborting what would have been his final flying lap, so Andre Thierry with a chance, but currently 7 tenths down, just 17 seconds into this lap, so I don't think he's going to be challenging for pole position. And looks like Oscar Yaram quite comfortable there at the front of the field, as Andre Thierry out onto the grass and just about avoiding the barrier at the end of the grass. As Magnus Mortensen seeming like we're just picking up the off tracks at the moment. Aborting that lap, currently P5 in class. As now we have hit the end of the session, just time for these drivers to complete their final flying laps. As Svoboda, currently down in P6 in class, going to find an improvement, needs to find just about 0.2 of a second if he wants to be challenging Mortensen ahead. Got a few drivers out there. Sorry, a couple of drivers yet to set times. We've got Bansky in the Porsche Cup, so we'll be having a torrid time of it in the opening lap of this race. Right, and well, I have a lot of BMWs to pass on a very, very narrow circuit, and Anthony Victor Chappelle having not set a lap and perhaps wanting to avoid some, I don't know, predicted carnage. As Svoboda looking consistent, but I don't think they're going to improve their time this time around, or if they do, it will be marginal. They cross the line and stay P23 overall, and that will be an end to our improvers for this session. And as we wait for our drivers to line up on the grid, remind you of our top three in both of our classes will be Matthew Parry, who will be starting this race on pole position, followed by Joe Wilson, his championship challenger, and Jens Nielsen in P3. And then in the BMW M2s, it will be Oscar Yaram starting ahead of Callum Scotland and Andre Thierry. And as our drivers line up on the grid, we can now over and introduce you to our entire starting order for tonight's race. As mentioned, our car on pole position is Matthew Parry, number 85 car. And the green livery number 64 car of Joe Wilson will be starting alongside him on the grid. Forming the second row will be Jens Nielsen and Sven Konjarevic. Lars Ellis is in P5, starting alongside the P6 driver of Sam McCarthy. As Jerome Eckhard is in P7, starting alongside John Sawyer in the 116 car. Balazs Fahir, 369, pony car, will be starting alongside the flame liveried 666 car of Slavek Klinger. P11, we've got the first of our top drap cars. It is Jordi Cano. He'll be starting alongside Marek Schittel. Starting too close to his teammate for me to be comfortable with from a commentary perspective is Jordi Navarro, and he'll be starting alongside the unliveried 131 car of Martin Puig. Rudius Hartez will be starting in P15 alongside Jakub Borovic in the 301 car. Jana Briznik is in P17 and will be starting at the back of the grid of Porsche Cup cars, or at least the ones who are in position. There's Oscar Yaram starting P18 overall, P1 in the BMW M2 class in the 156 car. We're having a reasonably clear run, although I suspect with the bunching of the Porsche Cups, head may end up catching onto the back of them and having to be careful through the first corner. Starting in P19, so a row behind the class leader will be Callum Scotland in that purple tartan car. He'll be starting alongside Andre Thierry, the number 46 car. Lennon Bromfield is in P21, P4 in class, with Magnus Mortensen in P5. Vortex Svoboda in P21 will be starting alongside František Severin in the 126 car. Marco Lorenzon is in P25 with Carlos Jimenez in P26. And then will be Max Davies and Jules Flint with Alex Perry and his Shrek liveried car in P29. In P30 we have got Mikhail Arminsky with Tim Snells in P31. Benjamin Odin Vedvik is in P32 with Felix Marek in P33. Alan Szymensky starting out of position in final of the Porsche Cup cars. Will have a lot of overtaking to do in the opening lap, with Anthony Victor Chappelle rounding out the grid down in P35. And as we return our attention back to the front of the field, Matthew Parry and Joe Wilson bring us down through the final sector of this race circuit as all the cars line up 2 by 2, ready to get this race underway. It's a relatively short run down to the first corner and a not heavy braking zone, so it will be interesting to see how these drivers play their hand. And then coming down towards Cascades, plenty of opportunity for incident on this very, very narrow Oulton Park circuit as we await green flag to start this race here. And we are racing at Oulton Park. It's a good start for Matthew Parry. Manages to close off the attack from Joe Wilson behind. So they go side by side. And as I mentioned, it is very easy to get an incident here at Oulton Park. And it seems we've already had one. But Matthew Parry managing to eke out a little bit of a gap there ahead of Joe Wilson. And it is Matthew Parry ahead of Joe Wilson. Sven Konjarevic is in P3 with Sam McCarthy behind. Jens Nielsen dropped to P5 so far. He's in 2 positions. Sam McCarthy up 2 positions. Biggest losers at the start of this race is Jens Eckhart, who's down in P22. Having to make their way through some of this back marker traffic, and Navarro also down into P31. At the top of the field, Matthew Parry, as we return our timing tower. Well, it looked like a great start for Parry, and it might have been because it was a little bit of an early one for him, as he has picked himself up a drive-through penalty for a jump start. So Joe Wilson will be very, very pleased to see that, and won't be too worried about that gap that he's now got to Matthew Parry, as Matthew Parry will actually stay out and try and consolidate of his advantage at the moment. As behind, Joe Wilson is leading Konjarevic and McCarthy onto the second lap of this race. And with all the excitement we've had up at the front, it's having us some time to check in with our BMW M2 class, as it looks like Eckhart picking his way through the cars that he ended up behind with incident. Now Oscar Yaran with a decent gap behind to Scotland, and will be hopeful that the Eckhart behind can just blitz past on this long straight here at Oulton Park. That is Jordi Cano. So both of the top drivers having a torrid time of it. As what has happened there? There's more and more contact happening. As he's off the circuit already. Really struggling to get going, so not sure how long ago that all started, but now cars having to dive to the inside to get by, and it's caused some real mayhem there, Roddy Cano, and I don't think many of the other drivers will be too impressed with his decision making there. So it is Joe Wilson who holds the net lead of this race once Matthew Parry serves his drive-through penalty. But Matthew Parry, with an absolutely phenomenal pace, will be absolutely kicking himself because of that full start. And didn't need any real advantage at the start of this race. Has already pulled out a 2.5 second lead after just 2 laps. It would all be for nothing, as next time around he will have to peel off into the pit lane and serve that drive-through penalty. And worth reminding everyone here watching as well, if you're new to the series, we do have mandatory pit stops for all of these drivers. Mandatory 25 seconds of stopping for refueling. No need for a tyre change, but you can if you want. You have to spend an extra 5 seconds. That means Matthew Parry will be having to make 2 trips through pit road before the end of this race. Sam McCarthy finding himself now under pressure from Jens Nielsen, tucked up right up behind. Got the car ahead of him. This circuit, it is one thing to get close to the car ahead, another thing absolutely entirely to make a move and get by. It is very narrow and very twisty around here. You really are relying on a big mistake from the car ahead of you. As they pick their way through, we'll check in with the BMW M2 field, and looks like Oscar Yaram with a 2.5 second lead over Callum Scotland. And well, luckily for Yaram, that 2.5 second gap he will get to keep, as he does not have to make a trip into pit road. As Matthew Parry now coming out of the pit lane and emerges down in P12. Is not the start to the race that he was wanting, and has a lot of racing ahead of him, as Marek Chatil under pressure from Martin Kourij. As they come through Shell Oil Corner. Harry not losing too many positions from that drive-through penalty. There's a little bit of a wiggle there from Kourij. Sees him dropping back behind Borovic, and Matthew Parry is up another position. Will be, I'm sure, a frustrated driver looking to make as many moves as he possibly can, as quickly as he possibly can. We'll keep checking in with Matthew Parry and see how far he can get back up the order. But right now, Jens Nielsen having a look up the inside of Sam McCarthy, not close enough to make anything out of it for now. As Konjevic goes off the circuit ahead, 2 wheels wide, but managing to keep up the momentum. Doesn't lose a position to Sam McCarthy. And now Joe Wilson, stretching his legs a little bit, now has a 1.5 second lead over Konjevic in P2. And Jens Nielsen is in the slipstream of Sam McCarthy. But nothing doing for now, as Matthew Parry, obviously not wanting to fight his way through a pack of Porsche Cups, knows that he's got the pace to get out there and just lap in clean air if he can get it. So opting to take an early pit stop, will just have to push out and try and gain as many positions as he can in net, at least, while he waits for the others ahead to pit. And we've got quite a big battle down in the bottom end of our Porsche Cup field, as Lansky, who started, let's us not forget, behind the BMW M2s, now picks his way up to P14. And I think actually the pace that Spassky's showing might end up actually getting the net position off of Matthew Parry once he takes his pit stop. As Jens Nielsen is into the pit lane, opting for an early stop, was caught up behind Sam McCarthy for quite a while. He's hoping he can get out back on track and set a couple of good laps and try and get that undercut from Sam McCarthy. Was showing good pace. He was up there behind McCarthy, so see what he can do in some clean air. As now Matthew Parry has found some different traffic to contend with. He's now up in the top end of the BMW M2 field and has just got the front two cars of Callum Scotland and Oscar Yaram to pick his way through, and then we'll be into a reasonable gap of clean air in which to push. As Yaram Eckhardt has got Spassky all over his rear end as they come through the chicane, and Spassky already with a great exit. And side by side as they come down towards the second of the chicanes. Will they end up going side by side through the corner? They do, but it is Spassky who takes the apex and is now up into P12. As Matthew Parrott is now clear of Oscar Yaram and back at least into the grouping of the Porsche Cup cars. Will remain to be seen where he comes up in relation to everyone else once they make their pit stop, but Spassky picking his way through and actually opting to race, and they're now beginning to approach onto the back of the back marker M2 cars. That is Marco Lorenz on there, and there's a lot of cars there battling for a very small bit of track. As we've got Joe Wilson into the pit lane from the lead of this race, putting Sam McCarthy now out into the lead. Has now got his way past Konjarovic. We didn't see how that happened. Sam McCarthy has got Konjarovic for very, very close company. And oh, that was a very odd off track there for Sam McCarthy, just not getting the car slowed down enough and across the grass as Joe Wilson emerges in P13. Has got about 11 seconds of clean air in front of him, so see what he can get up to. As Konjarovic gets caught up there behind, and that is the car of Bromfield. As we got cars off into the grass, Sam McCarthy barreling into the pit lane right up behind one of the M2s. He had to be on the brakes a little more than he wanted there. As we've got a car jumping about. As in the M2 class, Oscar Yaram with a 5.5 second lead over Callum Scotland. Is in a very dominant form in tonight's race. In P4 at the moment, this battle between Jakub Borovic and Spassky. Two poles battling it out. And Spassky looks to the inside, no space there at the moment. Spassky really looking to try and make his way through, getting held up. He opens up the chicane, looking to get a perfect exit. And again, he's going to go side by side into the chicane. Is there enough room? Spassky just enough ahead. Oh, and there's a twitch there from Borovic. Spassky up into P4. And now with a little bit of clean air ahead of him, to chase down Chatil for P3 in the race. Although that will inevitably see him drop further down when he takes his mandatory pit stop. But having fun now nonetheless. As Anthony Parry now has seen himself climb up now onto the back of Balazs Fahit. Both of these drivers have made their mandatory pit stop for this race, as Jordi Cano getting all out of sorts on the exit of the chicane. Blanchefey having to back right out of it. Matthew Parry also backing well out. Well, that's going to cost them both some time, but thankfully no one getting caught up in an incident. And now Matthew Parry is going on the attack. And also going on the attack is Spansky. We'll see if we can throw another special into the chicane. We're also keeping an eye on Matthew Parry. And Spansky lining up for the pass into the chicane again. Looks to the inside. This time Patil defending it well, and Spansky not making his way through, but on this back straight, winding his way through, he's getting the car alongside Chatil. They come into, oh, and there's contact between the two of them, and Spansky's off onto the grass, but manages to control it pretty damn well, losing only one position from what looked like could have been a bit of a nightmare crash. We have got another unfortunate penalty there for our P16 driver, John Sawyer. Stop go 30 penalty, must have been for speeding in the pit lane, and that is not going to be sitting well with him as he now makes his way through the BMW M2 field, but will see himself back amongst it. And now Matthew Parry is past Blanchefey here. Let's see if we can find how we got through. No, unfortunately we can't. Apologies. But Matthew Parry now up into P8 overall in this race, with some drivers ahead of him still yet to pit. Does mean he is now about 16, 17 seconds behind our net race leader, Joe Wilson. We have the four leaders of this race still yet to pit. But P4 net for Matthew Parry after a drive-through penalty. A serious solid going. And Joe Wilson just keeping things calm. As yet to pit both Thierry and Svoboda battling out on circuit. As Callum Scotland has made his mandatory pit stop. He's now down in P25. Not. But what happened to the number 71 car? Find him all the way down here. Let's see if we can find out. Oh, that was Jarno Ryznek and Callum Scotland. So that is why Scotland finds himself down in P24. Will end up being a, I think, net P6 in class, if I'm not wrong. An unfortunate there from Scotland, who was doing well earlier on in this race. Severin being chased down by Marco Lorenzo. As Martin Kruij raced Partes out of the pits. These two battling their way through. There's Callum Scotland now, making his way past Marco Lorenzo. They battle their way into the chicane, both leaving each other plenty of room. And no, we have Spassky up behind Eckhart. It's for P10 on the road. P8, I think, in the net positions. Now Spassky sends one up the inside. Bold move. Going off corner, off camber corner, and Spassky still holding the inside line into the first corner, and through he goes into what will be P8 once our final two pitters. Actually, no, probably. Yes, will be P8 once the final two pitters go into pit lane. As Matthew Parry continues to pick his way through. Oh, as there, I think Parry little impatient side-by-side contact. If you just, let's see that from a different angle. And don't think. I think was that Eulis? Oh, where's Elijah Eulis? There he is. I think he could have been much more over and off of the racing line, so or much more off the circuit. So taking as much of the inside curve as he could, but Lars Earl is really pushing hard and very fortunate to keep a hold of that one, I think. Oh, that is really now not much in the way of control over the rear of that car. Not sure if there is damage from that side-by-side contact with Matthew Parry, or he's just running the car on the absolute ragged edge. As Minsky, the final driver remaining to pit of the BMW M2s. Once he does, will leave Oscar Yaram back into the lead with a 15-second advantage over this man here, Andre Thierry. It's been a dominant display for Oscar Yaram yet again, as Spassky right up behind Klinger. And it will be another special through the chicane. Again, excellently judged there from Spassky, and is up into P8 as Borovic finally dives into the pit lane. Alan Spassky will be P7, and with 9.5 seconds to go and chase down Balazs Fahey. Just 7 minutes remaining in this, or 8 minutes remaining in this race. Will be a tall order. As we now have Jules Flint, Severin and Scotland very close together on the circuit. And we know Callum Scotland has got the pace. We saw him take P2 in qualifying as he chucks one up the inside of Severin. That's a good move. Gets it made on circuit, and now can go and take the fight to Callum Scotland. With everyone having made their mandatory pit stop, Joe Wilson finds himself back in the lead of this race, 7.2 seconds ahead of Sam McCarthy, with on Yarovic a further 4 seconds behind. And Callum Scotland really on the back of Jules Flint. They come into Shell Oil corner. Both of them getting nowhere near the apex of the corner. Carrying the speed through though as they come down. into the chicane, plenty of apex curb for both of them. And Callum Scotland should have a good run down here. Which side will he try and go? It doesn't look like there's quite enough overlap for him to force his way alongside. What has happened to Klinger? Into the first corner of the circuit. A little bit too much apex curb, and does well to avoid going into the other car. Does well to avoid going into the barrier. Slavak Klinger, who, quite a lucky incident there, not to pick up any damage on his car. As Jules Flint and Callum Scotland now go side by side. Fabulous racing from these two. It's the battle over P4 in the class. Jules Flint that we're watching now. To Bode at some 10 seconds up the road. So this will be the last meaningful position that Callum Scotland is going to be able to make if he can make his way through. Really showing he's got the pace at the moment. He's holding well onto the back of Jules Flint, but so far and not able to find himself the space to make a move. A little bit of a wobble coming out of shallower corner. Needs to prioritise his exit here from the chicane and try and get that run down into the second chicane. Has this time got a much better exit. Should be able to get some amount of overlap here. Nope. In the end, not. And Callum Scotland has to follow Jules Flint through, but small mistake there from Flint should allow Scotland to carry just a little bit more speed. And now he will get to the inside for the double apex right-hander at the end of this back straight. And this should be move made for Callum Scotland. Now finds himself up into P4 in class. And somehow Bansky has found himself right now onto the back of Balazs Fahir. I'm not sure if something's happened to Fahir, the 369 car. But we can take a look and see if there's been anything picked up. Nothing that I can see. But now Spansky well on his back. And Spansky is using every bit of track that is available to him and then some. As he looks to get to P6. Well, back at the grid start, behind all the M2s as well. As Balazs Fahir takes a very wide line off onto the grass. And that is Bansky up into P6. And now Vula's up ahead. Could be a P5 in order by the end of this race. That would be a very, very strong battle through the field. And another driver who's had a strong recovery is this man right here, Matthew Parry. Now up into P4 and battling over the final podium position after an early race drive-through. It's Adam Spansky we're going to return to as I'm down. Oh, and I think that was Eulers just trying to close off the chop across the nose there of Spansky, and just staying ahead for now. Can't see that lasting all that much longer. Spansky definitely showing he has a lot more pace than well, just about everyone else out there on circuit, it would seem. Fastest lap of 1:35.1 last time around. And well, best of the rest is a 1:36. 1:35.8. is our next best. That is a 0.7 of a second advantage over the entire rest of the field. As Alan Spansky. Sven Konjovic. All over the back of... Sorry, Matthew Parry all over the back of Sven Konjovic. As they approach onto the back of the M2 traffic, and this is going to get dicey for this pair. As they make their way through. Matthew Parry now a little bit blocked out, although Konjovic not doing much better, as I think that's Jules Flint going off onto the dirt. And what's happened to Joe Wilson? An incident with one of the back markers, and that's Matthew Parry going through. Oh well, I am not sure what has happened here, but it's the 136 car of Snells and Joe Wilson having a coming together. Let's see if I can get a better replay of what happened between them. Oh, nope, I can't. Actually, it looks like there was some contact a little earlier, as well. A frustrated end of the race there for Joe Wilson, but it's Sam McCarthy who takes the win here at Oulton Park, followed by Sven Konjovic and Matthew Parry making up the podium. And Joe Wilson having to settle for P4 in the end. It was Spansky who took P5 on the road, followed by Villas, Behir, Eckhard, Chateau and Klinger. And we turn our attention over to the BMW M2s. Oscar Yaram around the final corners now. And taking the win here at Oulton Park. 21 seconds behind is our P2 driver, Andre Thierry. That's how dominant the drive we had from Oscar Yaram today. And Andre Thierry and Svoboda coming through the final corner now. Both getting a little bit of a wiggle on the exit, and it will be Andre Thierry who takes the second step on the podium, and Svoboda rounding out the podium and taking home P3 tonight. Well, thank you very much for watching, everyone, and congratulations to our podium finishers for both of our classes. Those were, to remind you, Sam McCarthy, Ben Konjovic and Matthew Parry. In the BMW M2s, Oscar Yaram, Andre Thierry and Porsche Svoboda. As a reminder, do please check out the pitskill.io website, where you can get yourself signed up to take part in these and many, many more races. There is a referral link down in the description below. You can get yourself signed up, get yourself on the grid, and get yourself racing. You also check out the pitskill.io Twitch and YouTube channels, where you can see a lot of our other races being broadcast, especially our GT3 Elite races on Wednesday, which will be going to Oulton Park on Wednesday, and be very interesting to see how those much larger cars go here, and some of our best races here at pitskill.io. And do tune in right here at the same time next week, where the Pitskill.io Porsche Cup and BMW M2 Multiclass will be going to Silverstone. A much easier time of getting past the back markers for the Porsche Cups. And if you have enjoyed the race and commentary tonight, please do like and subscribe. It really does help us out, get us found out, and get more people on the grid at Pitskill. And without further ado, all remains is to say thank you very much for our drivers. Congratulations to our podium finishers. Thank you all very much for watching. And I'll leave you with the highlights of tonight's race. Have a very good rest of your day. Goodbye.
stops made in seconds brief. Strategies we strive and thrive and thrive. Victory's the pure